Town of Ossining Town Work Session for May 19th, 2015. Please stand for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Well, good evening. Tonight we'll be talking about our first item on our agenda is road paving for the unincorporated area. And Michael G. O'Connor, do you want to come and sit next to our illustrious attorney? And you can go over all this stuff with us of what we're doing. Very exciting project.
Is this on? Yes. Okay. Good evening. Thank you, Madam Supervisor. As everybody knows, or should know at this time, that we've been reviewing the roads. We've been looking over all of our roads. We had a list of kind of like giving them a number ranking from 1 to 9, and we went through the list and we culled it down, and this is where we're at now. We've culled it to this point after a lot of analysis. It wasn't darts to the wall. It was thinking about it, going out and looking at the roads. So we're looking at, okay. No, okay, good. We're looking at the following roads: Blue Lantern, Brookside Lane, Gordon Avenue, Mancuso Drive, River Parkway, and Stormytown Road. Basically, it's right now, after going with the paving expert, Louis Rinaldi, who's been in the business for many, many years, decades. He's also the annual bidder. And he's annual bidder, as he indicated, for the Village of Ossining, which is adopted by the Town of Ossining list. And we looked at the roads, and he concurred with 3 of the roads: Brookside Lane, Mancuso Drive, and Stormytown Road, as candidates for milling. He indicated that these roads had to be milled. Blue Lantern, Gordon Avenue, and River Parkway, he recommends what they call shimming the road. It's a process of leveling off certain areas and bringing the road up, and then do the overlay over that. So, and he's recommended a shimming process for those 3 roads. We've broken out the cost, and the costs they're pretty accurate. The numbers are going to come in this area. We have the cost of blacktop, and the road what I got. Excuse me. It's on the list of how many on the price per ton. It's $96 a ton laid in place. Now, the milling cost is estimated at $4 a square yard, and tack coating right now is estimated about 90 cents a square yard. That could go up. Now, we put in the milling cost here, but I just mentioned to you 3 roads were not milling, so we don't have a column yet for the cost of the shimming portion of those roads. No, in other words, you would drop the milling cost, but then you would bring it up. Those 3 roads would then have shimming cost.
The shimming cost more or less.
Probably about the same, maybe slightly less.
Well, we would leave it anyway, right?
Yeah, exactly. That's why I'm just leaving it like that. And so currently, the Highway Department is out working on a list of the catch basins that have to be repaired on these roads, so we want to get ahead of that. In addition to the catch basins, we also, for repairs, we also have to right height catch basins, right height sewer manholes, and then we have the valve boxes for the water supply valve boxes, and also in the road where there is natural gas, we'll have a natural gas valve box. Maybe in the roads, most of the time, those tend to be out in the grass, so we may not have to do that as much. But we're putting together that list as we speak right now. and we're actively working on the infrastructure items that we have to do on our end before the road can be paved.
Before you go any further, Eric wants to know what's shimming.
That's close. I wanted to know what's tack coating. That's very good. You know me
The
very
supervisor knows what tack coating is.
Wow. That's good, Northern.
I saw you. I couldn't wait, guys.
Yeah. He wrote it on his pad, right?
Okay.
I'd like to know what milling is.
All right. Well, we'll one at a time, and this is very good. And thank you for the questions. All right. One of the things that's done in the past is you put a layer, you come along, put another layer, and you see the manholes, you see cracks develop, etc. If what you do with milling is you go in, you mill out one of those levels, you mill it out, maybe an inch and a half, you mill it down.
Milling meaning scraping.
You actually scrape
You
it. You
scrape
scrape
it.
it. If
See?
you've ever
Then I-
driven over a road and all of a sudden you're on a quiet road and next thing it drops a little and then and you hear this humming and everything else because your tires are now running over what these scrapings that have been left behind. Actually, the byproduct, when they pull that stuff up and they dump it into the truck, we use the milling products to put the parking lot in Ryder Park up at the top of the pavilion is, and we put that whole thing in there, all without cost to us. We got the millings for nothing. We also got millings to do Cedar Lane Park, where that ball field is, that upper play field is up there, because that was all mud and everything else in there. And we put a good deal of millings in there and
Right.
leveled them off. And
Reuse everything.
so and it's free, so it's used. Other than that, we use the millings for water main breaks, putting stuff back in, because the water main tends to blow out and send all the dirt down the street, so there's nothing there to put back in the hole. And we'll fill it with millings. It compacts very well, and so that's milling. So there's a machine that has a lot of teeth on it, a lot of grinding wheels, and it mills it up. Shimming is, of course, just leveling off the road so that you can come in with your final overlay. So, and what you do is, the road's got a little dips in it. Now, not every road is a candidate for shimming, and not every road is a candidate for milling. So, therefore, they have these various ways of preparing the road for the final product. Now, before you put the final product down, you put a tack coat down, and that's a product that sprays so that the coat you're going to put down tries to molecular bond to the road that's there. So if you've just tacked the road, now you want to put, if you shim the road, you put the tack coat down, and now the new road goes on top of it. If you mill the road, you want to put the tack coat down on the milling so that the new road really adheres to and then you roll it out, to the price, the proper amount of rollings and everything else. And they now know all this. On the big throughway jobs, they actually have GPS units on the rollers, and they actually know, and they have a unit that is recording from the signals, and so that they can go back years later if they have a failure in the road, they can actually, and this costs a lot more money to do this, but when you have a big job on an interstate highway or a throughway or something like that, it pays them to analyze what went wrong so they don't make the same mistake again, so they can do this. And so
Could have fooled me on some of the highways. But
so the rollers have GPS units and send all kinds of data back to a central place, and that information is kept in the event
Okay.
that there's a road failure.
You have your questions answered?
we're not that sophisticated, but
Right. No.
but that's not us. But it's in fact, just to point out, we were talking about how many women are going to be on the board and everything else. The new rollers are computer driven. They are so computer driven that most of the new roller operators are women, where years ago it was just men, that
Okay, Michael.
sitting on
You
the
really.
sitting on this and they feel the road, they feel the roller. But now
Okay, we don't.
the new rollers.
Okay.
All right.
So,
Could I
anyway.
ask a different question, or are we? Eric, are you still asking? You're done. Okay.
Okay.
I just wanted to ask. other than the catch basins, the height sewer manholes, the water supply, all those things, is there anything on any of those roads? Do we know anything of those roads that we would need to work on? Well, if we're going to be messing them up, if we're going to be milling, is there anything else we need to work on?
Well, one of the things with milling is you get now to look at what's under the surface. And if you find a cancer spot, you can fix it. You see a spot that's bad. And these guys have the eye for it. Very fortunately, we have Matteo Velato on our staff.
Well, we're also going to have,
And-
and Paul's in the audience, we're going to have Paul look at some of these roads too. No,
No,
we
no,
don't need to
no.
do anything.
We
Right,
have,
there's
the
not, that's
experts.
what I was asking. Is
The
there anything
experts.
that we would, you know?
No,
There's nothing we need to do
no,
except have a check.
stay away,
Right, right.
but what we are,
especially when it's done in the heat of the summer.
And put on
Yeah.
the sign?
it's, one thing about we mill it down, we have an opportunity to look at where most of those potholes were and see if we can maybe do some addressing of an issue that's on that spot before we come back with the final.
Okay, I'm sorry, go ahead. No, go ahead.
Two things. One is just in terms of preparation. Yeah, I know that there's all the preps for doing the water, but if you look below the surface, you mentioned one thing, which is sometimes there's like water courses that go underneath and they erode, right? So the waterway. So you'll find like dips and stuff after you've done a great paving job and everything's nice. All of a sudden, you start getting damage due to water that flows underneath, right? Erosion, and then and then
Water-
secondly, pipes that run underneath. The one thing that really bothers me is you get a nice paved road, and then like you see 2 months later, and there's somebody's digging it out to fix a pipe that maybe should have been fixed already
Okay.
before the new paving job.
This happens, and when I worked for Con Edison, when I was back in 68, 69 in the engineering department, if they would send us a notice that the city would, that they were going to pave a road, and the first thing I was responsible for to go into that neighborhood and do my due diligence to check on everything, load factors and everything else, to see if any work was necessary. Because if we went back in the road, the city would make us pave that entire block that we just dug up.
Okay, so my question is, should we be letting Con Ed know that we're going to be working on these roads so that if they have any work they want to look at or any
Yes.
other piping,
Yes.
people,
Part of the process.
telephone, I
Yes.
don't know, whatever wires are underneath? Yes.
Yes,
Okay.
the answer is yes.
It's all part of the process. This is not,
Of what the contractor does, so we don't have to do nothing from here, it's all.
Oh,
I just wanted to make
okay,
sure.
now to keep the cost down, we're talking about the highway department, when necessary, closing the road, providing for traffic control in order to keep the cost of the paving operation down to as much as possible. So those factors the supervisor and I have talked about.
right.
And then,
If,
go ahead.
if I may, Michael, how do you make the judgment? Upon what information do you make the judgment to pave a spot or a road or not to pave the road? The reason I ask this question is that I understand that a paved road out in front of your house is a very, very important aspect.
Okay, I gave out, and I should have gave it again, I gave out an assessment.
We rated
all the
rated
roads.
all the
I gave
roads.
everybody a copy of that twice now.
I did.
And it was just myself going out, not hiring an engineer or anything like that, going with my experienced men and giving it a rating. And we did that.
Is
And
that the 1 through 9 rating?
the 1 through 9 rating. So when I went out with Louis Rinaldi and I showed him the roads I wanted to do, he said, no question, everyone wondered how I indicated in the rating I gave it. He says that was true. Now, one other road that's on here, and that's Mancuso Drive. Mancuso Drive was built, I don't know, 20 years ago, and it's a total failure now.
It's still not paved, right?
No, it was paved by the contractor, but the contractor did a very sloppy job. He didn't put any
But it is a town road.
It's a town road. Mancuso Drive was accepted by a board 20 years, 25 years ago or more was accepted.
Okay.
And it turns out that the contractor did not put any sub-base. And on this road, Mancuso Drive, it has to be milled up. Louis Rinaldi believes that. And when we do that, we're going to have to build the base up. We may have to do more work on this road to right height things because we're going to have to build the base up and put a base down more because there's nothing there. Once we mill this road, because it's so bad, that we're going to have to do a new base before we can put a.
Whoa, okay, because we don't have any of that in.
No, it's not in here, but this is from our field survey that I didn't put into the spreadsheet, that this one road is going to need additional base work.
Thank God it's only a tenth of a mile.
Yeah, yes.
I just want to explain that everyone that has a that's home is on a road, which they are the mall, and that we have a limited amount of funds to spend on roads, and this is a big project for us since it's been years since any roads have been paved. You know, we did pave Ryder Avenue. Ryder Road or Ryder Avenue? Which one?
Half of Ryder Avenue.
Right, from
because we dug it
Cedar
up
Lane Park down to, from Ryder Park down to
North State Road.
State Road.
For the new sewer.
Right.
Should it also be pointed out that there are certain roads that are state roads? Maybe the people
Oh, yeah,
who made
yeah, it's
mistake-
very important that we do realize that what you perceive as maybe Hawks Avenue is a state road. Michael, say some of the state roads that people would
okay.
not. Oh, North State Road is a state road.
Well,
Oh, no, that's a county road that we
County-
now took possession of.
That's correct. Now, Hawks Avenue, the first half of it, going from the south to the north, the first half of Hawks Road is a state road.
Okay.
Then Kitchequan Road is a state road
Right.
over to Croton Dam Road. Now, Croton Dam Road from Kitchequan Road out to the town line is a state road.
Right.
So that's how 130.
Because they identify that as Route 134.
Route 134. So when people call me up about Hawks Avenue or Croton Dam Road, the first thing I say, what's your address? And where
Quick
do you live?
question. Grandview and Grandview is a 7 on here. And McCarthy, I know that's not ours, right?
McCarthy is not a
Okay.
it's not a named road,
Right.
and Grandview is half village and half town. So when the village does theirs, then
we'll
you do it all at
Okay,
once.
got it. Thank you.
Yeah, we took Grandview off of our list collectively because it made no sense to us to pave half the road and not with the village.
Right,
So-
Madam Supervisor just said that.
Thank you. So that's it. The issues for McCarthy Driver for another day.
Yeah.
Right, got it.
The whole
Thank
project
you.
unto itself.
Thank you.
So we want to
Another
just we just want to identify that this particular project we're going to be doing. Paul, did you have any input on the road paving, or are you okay? Good. Just didn't want to. This particular project, we had put away into our contingency fund some monies, and we're putting $184,000 worth of contingency funds into this project, and we have $160,000 worth of CHIPS money. Sorry. So, that comes out to the total price of this project. So we don't have to we don't have to bond, we don't have to take it out of fund balance. So this is one of the things that we committed to when we put the budget together, that we were going to spend money on road work. These are the roads that need to get done. We know everyone will be calling and saying that their road should be done, as we all do. I want to say that I live off Pleasantville Road, and that road got paved, it was by far the worst road, I think, in the whole town. But it got paved before the winter, and it held up beautifully. And I know Mr. Rinaldi did that road, and same contractor did that road that's going to be doing our roads, because I have had some discussion with other supervisors on road failures after paving. So we want to make sure that we dot all our I's, cross all our T's, and this will be a very exciting project for the... You're a celebrity.
On, I believe it's 117. I know that's not ours, but
Right.
out by Rockefeller's estate out there. You see these strips You know what I'm talking about?
Oh.
There's
The
a-
rumble strips?
No, that just look like
Cutouts?
they repaved a certain
Oh.
strip,
Yeah.
and it's. I don't. What is that called? Because it doesn't stay, whatever it is.
It's the one almost to the curb
Yes.
on the
yes.
side. We call that a drag box. And what it does is the state utilizes a lot because it's a very cheap method. But your words that you just spoke are so true. It does not stay.
No.
Because you cannot taper blacktop down that thin. You can't. Now, when we microsurfaced Croton Dam Road, the S-turn, we microsurfaced portions of Stormy Town Road. We microsurfaced portions of Old Albany Post Road, the S-turn and everything else. There is the aggregates and the chemicals and material in that can go as thin as a dime. But normal blacktop cannot go that thin. The aggregates and the products they used in the making of blacktop cannot be brought down that thin. So when you run that drag box, the drag box starts out thick at the fog line and goes out and tapers to nothing. And after a while, when those pieces just break off, and
Yeah.
there's nowhere more than that, then you can see it when they did it on Route 133 going to Millwood,
Right.
and that broke off all the way out there. And
Well, we're not going into that, are we?
No, we're not doing that.
we're
kind
not
of
doing
project.
drag boxes.
Okay.
So
I
this
didn't know
is
what you
this is
called
one
it,
of the
Johnny.
this is one of the things that happens a lot with the state because they have limited funds and they have to spread it out. And when Michael and I went up to Poughkeepsie for a meeting with the state about a year ago, when we were talking about the light on 134 and 9A, they were talking about how they would only pave that part, the sides of the roads. You know. Okay. Does anybody else have any pretty exciting times?
Thank you for all your work on this, Michael G.
Yeah.
Thank you. I'm excited that we're going to get all this paving done. I'm really.
Thank you,
When
Michael.
do you anticipate starting, Michael?
It's got all
After
the-
school,
Yeah, after school.
after school, they
So
were
it could be
trying
nice
to
and hot out
minimize
there.
effective
Ever
with
see blacktop
school
when it's
buses.
hot?
Yeah.
Oh,
That's
yeah.
true.
Now, it
Buses.
will, we're going to discuss this, and just to give you an idea, Stormy-Town Road. We do Stormy-Town Road, when we do the portion from Reback Drive over to 9A, we want to close it from Executive Boulevard over to Reback. So we do that both lanes. And then we want to do from Reback Drive over to Cedar Manor Nursing Home. We want to close that both ways. So on our end, we're going to be having to get a flyer out. We're going to hand deliver it to the houses around Knollwood, McCarthy, the Cedar Lane, Cedar Manor Nursing Home. All the residents on Stormy-Town Road are going to get a flyer. And when we know on what our timetable is, we're going to give them a heads up beforehand saying it's coming, and that we'll put up a notice of saying that when we're going to start. So we'll work out those details so that we don't just show up and we're going to do the work. We're going to let the residents know well in advance when we can to when the time frame of the work.
We're also going to do it around Torview so that the people can get in and out of Torview on both
Right.
both sections.
Thank you very much.
Okay.
Thanks
'Cause-
again, Mike.
Thank you.
Okay, that's number one. Now we have we have our local law number 3, 2015, no parking designated on town roads. Michael has to run and get his other piece of paper. Oh. Shuffle, shuffle, shuffle. Okay, so we had a public hearing on the local law number 3 for no parking on designated changes to town roads. And really the only folks that came out for that public hearing was a small section of Old Albany Post Road where they don't have any driveways. Their houses are from the 1800s and early 1900s. And they have a system of parking over there. So my recommendation would be should we put that right in the law, that that little section has that can bump up on the curb?
Why don't we discuss with the
Okay.
police to see how they handle it before you proceed on that? Because what we're talking about is some of the people, they park their outside left wheels are just over, they're within kind of the curb fog line area. They're not into the road. And so that's the only important thing, is that the vehicle is really not into the road. But we don't want them to get a ticket because they've been parking like that
Well, I
for
think it's how you
decades.
identify it in the law, too. And I think if you identify it from a certain space to a certain, space,
Well, is that in the law?
What is in the, because they seem to think that it is
Yeah, they
written
seem to
somewhere.
think that it's,
I don't believe it's in the law that says that they
Okay.
can do that.
but I think somebody told them that apparently. In fact, somebody said that.
Yeah.
They
but
were
it was-
told.
Exactly. That was the only questions we got on the no parking, so we do want to start moving on that because we need to put up some no parking signs. So that would be the only questionable part that I see that we have on.
Actually, what Michael's pointed out is actually the law specifically says that there's no parking on the shoulders of the roads.
Okay,
So
So
that's
we
the
really,
problem.
we do need to change that if we're gonna allow it,
yeah.
even though it's
We
been
can just
done
put an
by.
exception in there, no parking on the shoulders, except for this such and such portion of Old Albany Post
I mean, you
Office.
don't want it
Whatever
everywhere.
works.
You don't want
Right.
it everywhere. You want
Right.
it where,
But
I mean,
That's the only
as
place,
we
really.
observed, there's no other choice.
there's no other choice. We went out there, we drove around.
Right.
We looked
Should-
at
right.
properties, we were thinking about it, but even if you had made a little parking lot somewhere on that road, it's a very dangerous, there's no sidewalks, there's no
Walk,
anything
right.
to walk down the road to get to your house. So, I think that if you put some language in there for
I think
for
it's a
that,
unique area as well. Is there any other place?
There's
is
a
unique
section
to
of the
that?
park is unique area.
Huh?
There's actually a park called the unique
Unique-
area
oh,
right now.
really?
So, I mean, do you see any problems, Michael? Because there was really is, I mean, you and I
Wayne?
spent that whole,
I-
the whole-
I- If
You see
if
any
we can
problems with that?
address this wording, I don't see a problem.
okay. Do you see a problem?
In that
Do you know
section,
that?
can we do
No,
that?
because they've been
Yeah.
doing it for
Forever,
God
since
knows how
1800 and something.
I think it's understood that it's been there.
Yeah. Do you have any problems if they
No.
do that language?
For that exception in the
Just
code?
that
Yeah,
little-
that's fine.
Just that
Just-
little, and do it from this piece of
Yeah.
property to this
So
piece of
Oh,
property.
well, right now, we're saying Old Albany Post Road parking prohibited both sides of Village Line to Quaker Bridge Road.
Right,
So we wanna say except,
with the
Except
exception of,
For
Except-
within the shoulder of, you have to be kind of specific, right? Because you can't say except, because then that means that they could double park, and that's not what we're saying either.
Right.
Right, we're saying within the shoulder of the Foghorn Leghorn line, what? What line was
Sound
that?
sound like that cartoon.
I know,
Foghorn.
that's where I'm at. Michael, what did you say, the fog line?
Fog line.
The fog,
The fog line?
we refer to the white line that you see on the right-hand side
Yes, fog.
as a fog line.
So maybe
Oh,
we
that's
can
what-
write about.
does it exist in that stretch of road, the fog line?
Yes,
Yes.
yes, it does, yes.
Okay.
And it's not very far out on the road.
Now, just as a reminder, there was some discussion from the community members that did come in from that neighborhood that there's also a speeding issue there, and I think we talked
Right.
about it has nothing to do necessarily with parking, but
Right.
that we were going to communicate with the police and find out what possible
Mm-hmm.
solutions they had. One obvious one that comes to mind, and again, not for this conversation, but is what about possibly reducing the speed limit in that area? Because you do have pedestrians getting out of their cars and walking around. So just sort of throwing it out there.
The speed limit- What's the speed limit now?
30
30.
miles an hour.
Everywhere, all of the entire town.
In the town, it's 30 miles an hour unless otherwise posted.
Right.
I'll give you one example, and that is Brookside Lane is a school zone, but Brookside Lane is a town road, and by statute, it's in our code ordinance, Brookside Lane, school days, school hours, and it's posted, is 15 miles an hour.
Well, that's the way they have it around every school now.
Well, no, because now Croton Avenue is
It's 20
133.
miles. It's 20
and
miles
New
an
York State will not let them lower it below 20, right, Paul? And
But,
so,
but most of the schools have 50, it's been like that since about 2008.
Well, the only thing I wanted to say about that is, it doesn't matter what sign you put up,
Yeah,
because people don't recognize what's there
I guess
now.
if you lower the speed
It-
limit, though, then you can ticket at a lower. You
Well,
can.
if
I
they're
think that's
caught.
about law enforcement
If they're
more than.
caught, that's the problem.
Well, I guess we.
That section of road, by the way, is one of only 2 roads we have a weight limit on, and the other road
They
is
brought
Croton
that
Dam.
up too at the. they
Croton
brought that
Dam
up
Road,
out-
and
out
that
by
road has a
themselves.
weight limit. And
Okay.
I see trucks there all the time.
Oh, well, maybe we need some enforcement over there.
Okay.
But what are the trucks doing?
Well,
Yeah, if
you,
they're
they're using,
delivering.
they use Croton, they use Old Albany Pass, Post Road / Quaker Bridge Road to get to areas up
Oh,
in,
they're going
in,
through.
in the town of Cortland and the town of Newcastle and get back down to Route 9.
Okay. We'll have the police look at that, but most of the things I've seen are local deliveries, but that up there, we're up there a lot. That's the problem.
Okay.
Okay, so we're really cool with that. Excellent. You'll put that little language in, and then what's the next steps on this then?
Next step, once we get, well, we did a public hearing,
Yes.
so we can actually schedule, the, vote on the local law.
Since we took the recommendations from the public hearing and we're
Right.
going to incorporate them into the law.
And we'll have to incorporate them in law, we'll have to publish the new law before the actual vote.
Okay.
And it's gotta be 7 days before
Okay.
we vote on it.
And the reason that we're getting into season now, and we want to make sure we get no parking signs up, especially on Quaker Bridge and the entrances to like Waterview and stuff.
So,
You know.
so not next week, but the following legislative session after next week.
Right. Which is, yeah, it's still June. Okay. Cool. All right, Michael?
Yes, and what I'll do is, I just got your final version in the email when I went to the, your website, and I printed it off, and I hadn't had time to completely edit that against all the recommendations, so I want to finish doing that.
All the recommendations, what?
That I proposed, and now this is, this is what I printed off.
So-
from-
He's talking about the local law that I produced, so if he wants.
But what changes are you putting on?
None, I just want to edit it, that's all, just I want to make sure it says everything that
Oh,
I-
okay, you just want to review it.
mean
Okay.
review.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bad word edit, review.
Review. Yeah.
Michael G, I'm admiring your wardrobe. I like your new shirt with the town emblem on it and the
Shamrock.
shamrock.
I had 3 shirts made up because go a lot of places and they have tags on it, and I'm reserved. These are not going to be work shirts; they're going to be appearance shirts, like I wore on Monday when I went to the conference up in New Windsor, and so I like this because I like to, sell Ossining.
Okay, great.
Thank you.
All right, so the next item on our
Thank
agenda is the community choice aggregation. And this is, we've been talking about this we've had people in to talk about it. We've had people show up late to talk about it. We had people not talk about it,
Do we have to? Is there a time constraint on this?
There
Like,
is not.
meaning, I just wonder. I'm personally, to me, it sounds like a great idea. But the last time we had I don't know if it was the town meeting or it just seemed like not everybody understood it yet. And so I'm wondering, and remember the last time those people didn't actually, they didn't show up in time. So I'm
Right.
just wondering if we should.
But we had no one there to talk about to that thing either. But what we can do is we can leave this one till our town hall meeting, which is June 2nd, right? June 2nd? June 2nd is our town hall meeting.
just think
And
we
we'll
should-
ask them to come back for a
Yeah.
5th time.
I won't be here for that.
Okay.
Look at Eric. Eric's
Oh, okay.
asking. He's like, "Where are you going to be?"
What's the
Consider
yeah.
What do you
What's the
mean?
pager for? What's the pager here?
The TCA one pager is the, like, the summarized document, so we have that posted on the website.
Oh.
It's just one it's a one page, like a cheat sheet. And then we also have the PowerPoint presentation posted on the
There was a very interesting article in the Journal News about it too, and we'll get that and post that on the webpage so people can read that too. It's exactly this. It was Sustainable Westchester's community choice aggregation and how this is the wave of the future. My big thing on it, what it is. Let's go over it one more time so people just don't think we're talking about words. It's taking when there was deregulation of Con Edison, some people moved over to some other kinds of power, like wind power. I happen to have signed up for wind power. And so what you do is you still get all your billing, but you might either pay a little bit more or a little bit less because you're buying your power from another source. I personally did not want to buy my power that came out of a nuclear power plant. No, it's just a personal choice. So what happens is maybe 70, when they deregulated Con Edison, 70% just stayed in Con Ed and never did any choice. They never picked something. They never went anywhere. So what a community choice aggregation does is it brings a bunch of communities together, and what they do is they become that choice, but they become that default choice. So instead of defaulting to Con Ed, you would default to this group, your municipal choice. So what they want to do is they want to have multiple selections that you could check. You might want to have it all green power. You might not care about that. They want to give you some options, but it has to, by the regulations that when they put this whole thing together, it has to be cheaper than the current Con Edison regular rate right now. My big question to them has been, I've been to the village board meetings on it, I've been to these meetings on it, is that we have this big Solarize Ossining Briarcliff program going on. We're asking people to go solar, so this is almost a little bit conflicting because you're asking people to do two things, which is the same. But I also told them, and in some of the communities, especially up in the north, don't have a lot of people on gas. I would say that 50 to 60% of this community is on gas, probably heat, gas stoves. So where we could see some real savings for our residents would be if you did the same thing that you're going to do with electricity, which bundle all these communities together, go out and bid out the price and get the cheapest price for the electricity. We want them to tell us that they're going to do the same thing for gas, and they have indicated that they are going to do the same thing for gas. That would be a big savings for people that heat their homes with gas, because in the winter their Con Ed bills skyrocket, and in the summer their Con Ed bills skyrocket because they put their air conditioning on. So that was an important one. Some people had spoken to me that have watched these meetings and have read the stuff online, and they were curious about that it was an automatic. It opted you in, but it gives you the option to opt back out to Con Ed or to any of the other choices that are out there. Green Mountain, there's a bunch of different choices out there. It's really to make people more aware that they have a choice of what they pay for their electricity. Now, this is the wattage fee. You still pay for the transportation. You still pay all those other little fees that come in unless you go solar or something. So we just want to make sure that people truly understand this. And the first time that Mike Gordon came, he goes 3 times, and you usually understand it. I think we're grasping what it's all about. We didn't get any reaction when we put it. We didn't have to put it on a public hearing either, but we did, and we didn't get any reaction from the public. So let's put it on the town hall meeting on June 2nd. See if any interested people come in. I'll ask them one more time. We'll tell them exactly where it is because they came here when they were supposed to be at the courthouse, and we'll see if we can't, move forward or not move forward on this and decide. Okay? All right. So if you look on the agenda, the CCA one-pager means that it's a one-page blurb on it that's on the web page, plus the PowerPoint, right? And the PowerPoint's out there, so if you want to sit down and look at it on your own computer and stuff. As in everything is on the web page. Okay, our next item up is the 2015 bond issue and associated projects. So we had some questions at the last work session. Do you want to come up too, Paul, or do you want to? Dear. Okay.
He's like, no.
Okay. Yeah. We were talking about the different items that as a matter of fact, it was at the legislative meeting last week, and we were talking a little bit about the fact that what we're going to bond for, and what LED lighting was one of them. And so Tom prepared some paperwork so that maybe you get a little bit better understanding of what that's all about. We have that in a little pause right here, right? Yeah. And so that we understand, and I sent out an email this week so that you understand, because a question came up is why not use fund balance, but again, we have to remember that lighting is its own district, so, and each district has its own budget, its own fund, yeah, and tax base too, yeah. Oh, yours,
Good
buddy.
evening, Supervisor Donnelly and members of the town board.
Hi.
Oh, we could
Okay,
have
so-
harmonized that.
So I prepared a couple of different scenarios for financing of the proposed LED street lighting project, and that was this two-page sheet. The top, and I tried to make this so that it looks like the current street lighting budget. And so the top item is actually what the street lighting is now, and the proposal that there be no LED street lighting. And so this is the budget going forward. And right now, the 2015 budget is about $67,000.
Excuse me one second. Paul, you don't have a key to that thermostat, do you? Okay, sorry. It's very warm in here today.
What about a big banana?
Okay, so the 2015 budget is mostly just electricity for the street lighting district, and I've shown the cost increasing about 2.5%, which seems to be like a typical average increase for electricity, especially recently where the cost has increased. And I show it going up to the year 2023, at which time it will be about $91,000 for the street lighting budget itself. The next item is the method of financing that we had suggested for the project. If we're able to average out all of our debt service and pay for the LED street lighting project over 8 years through a combination bond or bond anticipation note early on. And here's where it shows the savings, because the cost of electricity drops dramatically, and it's replaced by debt service, but even still, it's going to cost less. And so there's going to be an immediate savings in the street lighting district. In 2015, it might be $8,000 because the project will be underway this year, and there'll be immediate savings. From the moment they change a light bulb, you have savings with the cost of electricity. And then next year, it would be $15,854 savings over the current system, and it increases up to $25,200 savings in the year 2023. And for all the years 2015 through 2023, it's a savings of $173,000 if you undertake this project and pay it back with debt financed over 8 years. And then I also did the same computations using 7 years, because I wanted to get something that was comparable with the Lumen Lighting proposal. So that's about $175,000 savings. Again, it's a little bit higher because the amount of the debt is paid off over 7 years instead of 8. The example down at the bottom of the page is the proposal that Lumen Lighting had offered to finance the project over 7 years, and that's about $143,000 savings over the same 8-year period of time.
So just to be clear, the top part is what it would be if we never did this project.
That's correct.
And we are
yes.
projecting these numbers for those, and then of the 8 years underneath, even with the bonding, and the cost of the lighting, whatever it is still is going to be this much less.
It's going to be significant
Yes.
savings.
Yes.
Right. Okay. Well, this is helpful to take a look at, because I absolutely admit that I had issues with the fact that we were going to not use money. Now I understand it was a different funding source.
We weren't in the right place to be discussing it because we're sitting in a board, we're straight across.
Yeah.
So
this
yeah.
makes, I mean, this, looking on paper, it just, I mean,
Makes a lot of
clearly the LED was going to make more sense anyway, but this shows how there's going to be savings even with the bonding across. So that's helpful, very helpful. Thank you.
Okay, and then on page 2, that was the.
But Tom doesn't stop there.
No,
No,
I'm
okay,
gonna
we'll
keep going
keep-
on.
I'll
I'll
to make sure he's hit every scenario
I
that
will,
was possible.
I will keep going with you.
The Lumen Lighting had also offered a 5-year payoff, which was basically was going to be paying for the project over the minimum number of years, for which there would be savings on the cost of electricity, and that's why they're very small savings in the years 2016 through 2020, when the project's being paid back, was because they were trying to maximize or minimize the amount of time to pay for the project, and then that was $170,000 over the entire 8 years. And then the final one, as the supervisor had discussed, and I put this in the form of a budget, and that would be that in the year 2015, we'd have to come up with an appropriation of $190,000 to pay for the contract. And that's where it shows that because we only had $12,000 fund balance in the lighting district, that wasn't a viable option because we didn't have fund balance to pay for the contract in the year 2015.
So my one question is, the difference between the financing over the 8 years on our own versus the financing with Lumen, right? So that's the second line and the fourth line on the first page?
Correct.
I mean, it is a little bit, what accounts for the
Therefore,
The
hold on a
difference?
second,
Right.
okay, but
Right,
they're,
theirs was-
okay, what I just realized is they are ahead all the way until 2013, 23, okay.
but they're also, that was a 4% loan, whereas the bonding is a 2%.
No, but I just realized, I went to 2023 and
Yeah.
saw $20,000 difference, which was under, but then if you look all the way from before, it's more,
See, and then,
so,
not to
I get it.
overcomplicate this, but.
I get it.
Not to overcomplicate this, but, so we know we're gonna use method number 2, right? They're not numbered, but the second
Yeah.
method there. But what I would suggest to the board that's here, I would suggest that you put into fund balance any savings for 2016, 2017, and even possibly 2018, and maybe give a reduction to the taxpayers in 2019 and 20, because then you've built up a little security amount in your fund balance in case you have a disaster, like a pole gets hit, or a hurricane comes and 3 poles come down, and if you ever have to do a lighting project, and then you can start giving a reduction back to the homeowners. So that's down the road a piece, but so we're very happy with number 2, which is not marked as number 2, right?
Yeah.
Any questions?
No, clear as muddy water.
Okay. Same thing we talked about last week.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, sir, we're ready to rock and roll with that.
Okay.
Oh, did our LED light man leave? In case we had a question. Okay,
Are we ready?
we're good. So, Paul, if you could come up and you know that we were moving ahead with it. How we paid for it was insignificant to you guys. But what is now the action steps for this LED lighting as we piggyback on the village?
Sorry, I missed the end of the presentation there.
That's okay. It was only about money. So,
Okay.
Hi,
Hello.
In other words, you don't have to worry about
you
it.
don't have to worry about that.
Good evening, everybody. The action steps are hopefully going to be you receive a formal executable document from the design builder, and I'm assuming you're going to want to review it with town council for the appropriate front-end specifications and content, and with Tom for the appropriate cost associated with the same. And once it's executable, he'll pass it along to you. You'll execute it, create a purchase order, and we will start. And I could tell you, if you do that because the Corporation Council and the village is still reviewing our version of the contract, I'm hoping to have that back sooner than later. But I think if you make yours executable within a week or so, it'll probably be able to run concurrent with ours, which is
Good.
what we always wanted from the beginning,
Right.
regardless of the financing component.
Right. Good. Excellent. Thank you. So we're ready to go. It's going to be exciting. And we'll have some roads will be paved, and we'll have LED lighting. And we'll have new street signs, because we bought them last fall, but we're going to be putting them up this summer, so.
I was gonna ask
It's
about
not
that,
street
but that was
signs,
in-
it's like 30 mile an hour.
That's
right?
a whole nother conversation, but I was gonna ask about street signs, because I saw some recently that looked like Reebok. You can't even
Yeah.
see it.
Well, Michael usually orders them, but when they have a different format now when you order new ones that you have to go by. But
about
he had ordered some, like, when we have no parking, December 1st to April 30th or whatever. Okay, great. Just to stay on bonding for a few minutes, we're going to go with let me get my sheet back out, with the 8-year one, because we're going to wrap it in with our second payment for our reassessment. And the third item on that bonding issue was the transit, the 2 transit cars. Tom?
But we're not-
Okay.
are we-
But we're not going to do them because we're going to use the funding that we saved from the 17-20 budget for the lawsuit.
Right.
So we'll do these 2 items, and then we can move forward on the bonding too. Okay? Is everybody in?
Yes.
Good.
Yeah.
Great plan. Thank you, Tom.
And that's why you constantly watch your budgets every single day. Thank you. Okay, Tom. Is Tom still with us?
Yeah, this wasn't on the agenda though, this sort of last minute.
Actually, I guess we should talk about the one-page sheet of paper that was left on your seat as well.
Freeze.
I don't have a
Government efficiency
one-page
plan?
sheet.
We don't have one sheet, we have
We-
two sheets.
We don't have a one-page.
Oh, this was the debt that the town has, a bonded debt that the town has.
Oh, right.
I don't have it.
I thought we okay. Can we want to get some copies?
Can you?
Where is?
Tom, we'll talk about the tax freeze and the 1% efficiency savings while we're getting those copies made. Okay?
Certainly.
Let me go to my pile. Everyone got a copy of the printed budget today, so we want you to go home and memorize it.
Yep.
And
You get a prize if you identify the cover picture.
I'm gonna leave it, for, about, 8:30, because I wanna go vote, I forgot.
okay,
Oh,
we
Oh,
should
good
be we should be pretty well wrapped
not
up.
yet. Got to do it.
Yeah. Oh, we'll be pretty well wrapped up. So, Tom, why don't you start on the tax freeze? Since
Clock is wrong.
oh, what time is it?
No, I'm not.
Oh,
going by that.
we got 8 minutes. Go.
I got it right.
Okay,
No pressure.
as you know, the tax levy cap legislation took effect in 2012, and for the years 2012, 13, 14, and also the 2015 budget, the town stayed within the allowable tax cap levy limit
Right.
for each of the years. And now there's a second phase that's been kicking in for 2015, and we have a big deadline coming up on June 1st, 2015, and that's the tax freeze component, which was the second step, which provided that if local governments stayed within the tax cap for the years 2015 and 16, did not override or did not adopt a local law to override the limit, and also provided documented savings of 1% of the 2014 tax levy for the years 2017, 18, and 19, then the residents would be entitled to a 2%, approximately rebate check, which many people did receive the rebate checks for the school taxes last year. But it seems that because of the length of time that it took to actually get the checks mailed out, it took a lot longer than they anticipated, that it's going to become a tax credit that's going to be available
Well,
to the
Thank
residents.
goodness. We don't need to have checks mailed out to millions and millions of people.
That
be
was
honest
a
with you, though,
little
I-
bit
yeah.
political.
I
Just
like
a little.
I like getting a check. Somehow I feel like I'm
Yes.
getting something, even if it's the same amount of money.
Well, I'm for voting for keep my 49 cents plus the dollar it took to print the thing plus
Yeah.
the people
Plus how many people
how many people had to
Right.
touch them.
I don't know. Do they really stuff envelopes these days?
You'd be surprised.
I think up there they don't.
Okay,
ahead.
so back in February, I visited the town board and then the village board, and we talked about this 1% savings plan, and we also talked about the meetings that we were having with Westchester County because under the legislation, the New York State encourages local governments to join together and file combined government efficiency plans, and the county wanted all local governments within the county to join their consortium and file one joint plan, but you didn't have to. You could file with other local governments, and that's what we had talked about, was the fact that we had so many IMAs between the town and the village that it was a natural partner for the town and the village to file jointly, and the supervisor also invited Briarcliff Manor to join us as well. And then the third option was that a local government could just file the government efficiency plan on their own. You didn't have to necessarily partner as long as you could document the 1% savings. So for the town, and this is on the two-page handout that says tax freeze and government efficiency plan, based on the 2014 combined tax levy, the town needs to come up with savings of $103,761 for each of the years 2017, 18, and 19, and the village was about almost $209,000. But because the town and the village were filing together, the savings gets combined together, so that together we're looking for a combined $312,000.
You said 100. Is that on here?
right
Yes,
here in the box.
it's in the box over on the right side of
okay.
the sheet.
Here we go. Okay.
And actually, back when I made the presentation to the town, we were almost at $1 million savings just by picking some of the obvious ones.
Right.
And we didn't even, we could have gone a lot further and really dug in and found some more efficiencies, but, you're only required to come up with the 1%. We wanted more than 1%. Because in case anything was disallowed, then there would be others to fall back on. Like, after we came up with our list, and then there was all these FAQs and questions with the state came out and said that the example that we had listed for paying off the callable bond on the public safety building that we did in 2014, that would result in savings in 2017, 18, and 19, as well as the next bond, the 2007 bond that we're going to call in the year 2017, doesn't qualify under the definition of the government efficiency plan. And then on the village side, we had a similar situation where the village refinanced debt for a lower rate back in 2012, and they didn't allow that either. So I did list that on the bottom of the second page, these three examples, but and this totals over $100,000 between the town and the village, but that's not allowable under the government efficiency plan. So,
And this says we were allowed to go back to 2012?
You're
I
allowed to
forgot.
go back
I
to-
remember you telling
yes.
us, but I just wanted to, highlight it again. How long?
Yes.
How far back could we go? And
Yep, 2012. So, and the town, the first one I have listed here was the when the Village Justice Court abolished at the end of 2011, and it just became, an enlarged town court in 2012. On the town side, we weren't going to include this because this was actually additional cost for the town, but the village insisted that they wanted to include these savings that the village had, and the comptroller's office came in and they actually did a calculation for 2012, and the village had to reduce our tax cap levy by the $460,000, but at the same time, they said the town could add $460,000 to their 2012 budget, but the town, didn't have to. They actually only put in $253,000. That was what the town had actually added. So right off the bat, the town had savings. So the fact that the village wanted to put in their savings, the $460,000, which, by the time 2017 rolls around, we calculated it would be over $504,000. We have to show an offset for the additional costs incurred by the town, which sort of negates the town's savings, I mean the village's savings, but that's what happens when you do a combined filing. The second item down in the middle of the page was savings from the increased health insurance premium contributions from the employees that was negotiated in union contracts. So that was allowable, $214,000 for the village and $46,500 for the town. We also had savings from the elimination of the operating expenses for the public safety building when the building was sold. So the basis for that was taking the actual expenditures in 2013 and prorating them for 2017, 18, and 19, which is over $57,000. And then at the bottom of the page, this was something that we had calculated for the economies of scale because the town had partnered with Greenberg and
North Salem
and
Yonkers.
and also Yonkers on the Reval project. And overall, because of the four governments combining together, the town was actually saving at least $75,000 on the total project. But in order to find a definitive savings for 2017, 18, and 19, it took the portion of the debt service costs. And so for those 3 years combined, it's about $25,000, even though overall it's more than $75,000 for the project as a whole. And then on page 2, these are the things that we've been talking about with the LED street lighting for the village and the town. And this is one of the things that we had found out, that it wasn't just the savings on electricity. We had to add the additional costs that were incurred. So on the village, we have to include the financing with Lumen Lighting, and on the town side, we have to include the cost of the bond debt service. So, these are smaller amounts only because there's offsetting debt in these years, but as we've discussed, it's a tremendous savings overall, especially once the financing is completed. And then the last one that we were going to list was the savings with the town police services IMA contract between the town and the village. And this is a savings over what the county contract was in 2014 and what the village had offered starting in 2015. That's $797,000 for 2017, and then numbers going forward as well. So combined between the town and the village, I didn't total this, 7 and 6, it's about $1.3 million that we're documenting and that we're submitting on the government efficiency plan for the 2017 year, and we only needed to provide $300,000. But, I think the feeling was that we wanted New York State to know that, and also let the public know that, it's much more than just struggling to just find 1% savings, that there's huge savings that's going on every year, and looking for savings all the time.
And this
Good
wasn't
stuff.
even actually looking too deep.
Right, these were.
And we feel for the municipalities that have, that are financially in stress and and have to do that. One other thing that we're putting into the bond agreement, the bonding too, is the which will be later in the year, will be the spray park recirculation.
Right.
Yeah.
That's
Just want to
actually
make sure
coming
we
up-
said that.
That's
Huh?
coming up in August when we go to the bond market for that.
Yes, we'll have it, right, Paul? Okay. We are opening the spray park on Memorial Day weekend, which is this weekend. It will be opened Saturday, Sunday, and Monday. We want to make sure that we start off the year well, and then we will be open weekends in June, and then the last day of school. Well, it won't be really the last day, but the weekend of the 20th of June, will start being open every day.
Do we know the times?
Chris is working on that right now because he's doing the hiring of the people.
Okay.
so. Okay.
Big information.
Okay, just wanted to throw that in. While we're working on, because the project is got a little slowed down, but we have the guys working on it every day now. So, okay, so Matt took care of that.
And we have one more sheet of paper to look at.
Oh, we do. Oh, the one that you just gave to us, right?
Yes, there was an inquiry as to how much debt that the town
Right.
had.
I think we might have put this in an email, but yeah.
So my deputy prepared this, and this is as of December 31st, 2015, taking into consideration the debt service that's already provided for in this year's budget. And so on the far right is the balance, which down at the bottom the total is about $5.2 million. Right now it's about $5.7 million that's outstanding at the beginning of 2015. But with the bonds being paid off, it'll be $5.2 million. And then over on the right side, I wanted to review, over on the left side, I wanted to review this going up from the bottom. The oldest bond is a 2000 bond, of which there's still $440,000 outstanding. It's just too small an issue to have considered refunding for lower interest. So, it's just paying it off. Basically, it's paying it off in the next couple of years. The final payment is, I don't know, can't tell.
Well, this is what was done then was the North State Sewer District and Cedar Lane Park. So you
Right.
see
That's what I wanted to thank you. I wanted to show what the purposes were. The next one going up is the 2003 bond. This was the one that was mostly called in 2014 to pay off the public safety building, but there were a few oddball debt that was in there pertaining to Water District, the North State Sewer District. There was some highway work in there, and there was also Croton Sewer District work, and also the street sweeper. So we had to leave a little bit, which is paid off in a couple of years. So right now there's only the $156,000 that's outstanding on that bond. And then in the middle of the page, this is the 2007 bond issue, which includes the balance on the public safety building. And this is the plan in 2017 when the bond becomes callable, is to pay off the balance of the public safety building, which is that $548,000 that's shown there. And there's also a highway dump truck there, as well as water main and Cedar Lane Park work. And going up the page, there's the 2014 bond for about $1.7 million. That was for tax certiorari claims, the water main cement lining, North State road drainage, and the $1 million on the revow. And then also the 2012 bond issue, which was for sewer district, as well as tax certiorari claims and truck for the recreation department. And then going across the page, it shows how much debt is owed for each fund. So, for instance, the general fund is about $1.8 million. The Town Outside Villages Fund is about $900,000, which will be cut more than half in 2017 when the public safety building debt is paid off. And then the highway fund has about $400,000. And then you've got some debt for the water district and sewer districts for some of their projects. And then the small debt for the lighting district, the fire district, the refuse and recycling district, and the ambulance district for tax certiorari claims.
Right.
And I was asked if I could, all right, so altogether, right now there's about, at the beginning of the year, there's about $5.7 million, and it'll be $5.2 million in debt at the end of the year. And right now we also have in the town bond anticipation notes for the old Albany Road dead end project, which is about $1.7 million as we work towards trying to finish that project and also get the FEMA funding for that to help pay off some of those notes. but I was asked if, for comparative purposes, if I could look to see what debt the two villages had compared to what the town has. Village of Briarcliff Manor, at the end of May 31st, 2014, which was their last fiscal year, they had a very small bond anticipation note of about $340,000. Most of their debt was bonded debt, totaling about $39 million, of which about $21.7 million was for general fund purposes and $17.4 million for water fund debt. And for the village, so that was a total of $39.2 million. And for the village of Ossining, our debt as of December 31st, 2014, bonded debt was $29.8 million, of which about $5 million was for the sewer project, the Kilbrook project. And also the waterfront debt was about $12 million. We have the $4 million project for the reservoir dam at the Indian Brook, and we're also undertaking several water cement lining projects. And then the general fund portion of the debt, which includes fire trucks and police, DPW, is about $12.9 million balance.
Thank you.
What is the Village of Briarcliff's? Do we know what their general? I think I know what the Village of Ossining's general budget is, or basic. What do we know what the Village of Briarcliff's budget is?
I actually have a copy of their budget.
I mean, generally, like what their like the
No.
village is like what 33 million.
The
basically.
village budget is, if you include the water district and the sewer, you know, I look at it as being about a $45 million budget.
Okay, about 45 million. And so the Village of Briarcliff, do we know what it is at all?
I do not know
No.
off the top of my head.
I'm just wondering.
I would say it's probably closer to $20 million.
And we're
Okay.
about 15.
15. And then, so these are the old ones, and then we'll have the old Albany Post Road, the reassessment, the LED, and the spray part. Is that about
Well,
right?
the reassessment part 2.
Oh, is
Yes.
part 1 in here?
Yeah.
Yes, I mentioned in 2014
14? Yeah,
there
here
was
it
$1
is.
million that had been issued.
Okay, got it. Thank
Yeah, I think it's I think we've been very conservative with our debt, so, you know.
Can you remind me, Tom, or Madam Supervisor, where we are going to draw the funds in order to pay down the $548,000 balance on the 2017 payoff?
We put away 50% of it last year in a little bucket, so that we would, because we could, and we didn't want to stress out the next 2 years.
Right.
So we have to, for now, in 2 more years, we have to put another 50%, so we can put 25% away 1 year and 25% away the next year. But we felt comfortable with doing that. We feel comfortable putting that money away because our fund balances are sufficient too. So
And that will further reduce the outstanding balance.
and the thing is you need to work on your infrastructure. You need to do these things. When they did a lot of the sewer projects earlier, that was to take away a lot of the lift stations and to put gravity sewer lines in, which is very, very important.
And
to
North
get
State
that.
sewer districts and water districts seem to come up a lot.
The North State Sewer District was because of the commercial properties out there. They didn't have sewer lines. So in
Really?
order,
Back then
Club
they
Fit
didn't,
and
huh?
all those places have to have sewer lines to exist.
Yeah.
And so that was the big project out there. So. Thank you, Tom.
Thank
That was
you.
very
Thank
exciting.
you for the
Um,
work and your deputy's work.
Yes. Thank you, Dale. Okay, so our last item on the agenda tonight, and you may want to stay, just sit for this one, Tom, for 5 seconds. It won't take us long, is the Thornton Hill past due tax payment. Most of us are aware that Thornton Hill is a 10-parcel property that was auctioned off last summer for failure to pay taxes, a tax collection auction. There's some complications, I would say, would you call it? Complications with the title and a reservation strip that one of the developers has possession of. I'll let you take it from there.
It was well documented, and that there was some modifications made to a site plan, which created an issue in terms of the ability to access the back portion of the approved project, which any purchaser of the property would have had to deal with directly. Maybe in court, maybe not. Probably could have been resolved, but it would have just been, a complication. In addition, there were some other issues that had arisen regarding the fact that the road itself was never assigned a tax ID number, so the road in the development was never foreclosed on, and there was an underlying mortgage on the property that was originally taken out by one of the prior owners, and so the question was whether or not that road was still encumbered by that mortgage. So these are issues that I guess posed some complications that would have had to been resolved, most likely could have been resolved, but nonetheless presented an issue. And as is typical with any foreclosed properties, title companies, title insurance companies who issue policies tend to reserve their rights with respect to something called redemption rights, which may exist for parties who either weren't properly served, noticed, etc. So I think the winning bidder was having a problem getting a title insurance company to commit to issue a title policy, which is why the bidder decided not to proceed with the sale, despite the fact that all the information was public, and obviously any bidder was responsible to do whatever due diligence they were required to do. So what I think you're referring to here is the fact that the underlying mortgage holder, who was unaware of the foreclosure, apparently initially, all of a sudden woke up and realized that their security interest in the property was at risk if the town went ahead and sold the property. No different than what happens oftentimes with just a single-family residential home where the home property owner is in default on the mortgage and isn't paying taxes. Oftentimes the lenders who have the underlying mortgages will come in and pay the taxes just to protect their interest. In this particular case, even though we had gone to judgment already, redemption rights theoretically still exist, and as confirmed by our tax foreclosure counsel, courts tend to be very liberal to protect the interests and allow even late redemption because the town ultimately is really only in the business of collecting taxes and not necessarily in the real estate business. So there is a chance that the lender, if it had gone to court, would probably have been able to enforce its redemption rights and come in and pay the taxes and protect its interests. So the tax receiver's office had been in contact with the particular lender that had a security interest in the property, who became aware of its position, and that lender elected to pay all the outstanding taxes on the property, and as well as all accrued interest, all the costs and penalties and everything, to bring the town completely, make it whole entirely. So it was, as we sometimes, and actually usually do in these situations, the town is being asked to accept the payment and basically take the property off the foreclosure roll and restore it.
Right. So if no one has an issue with that, we did receive the check already. It's over $200,000, so it's a nice chunk of money, and it moves it into a bank who's going to be very interested on moving forward. And they would take care of any issues with the titles and stuff like that, and that becomes their issue.
It's their responsibility.
It's their responsibility.
And
I
we
do want
cannot,
to...
right?
Yeah, no, we
We're
have
out-
no...
we're out of it
We're out of it
legally.
completely. I just want to make a notation that Nation Star is one word.
Yeah.
Okay,
It is, yeah.
so Nation Star is one word, and so wherever the amended, when we get to the special meeting, the amended resolution should just say Nation Star is one word. And so I think that this moves it in a good direction. One of the owners, because there seems to be, every time you turn around, someone else is claiming this property, has cleaned up the property. They need to deal with the bank, as does anybody else that has an interest in that property. What we'd like to see, with no it's out of our hands, but what we like to see is those 10 houses built and all the foundations are there, the sewers are there, the water lines are there. So I'm going to leave it in their hands, but I can't imagine a bank went to this much trouble just to have that property sit there. I do want to, if any bank is watching television, I do want to stress to you that while it's fine that you pay the taxes on homes that are in foreclosure for you and that are empty, that you have not taken possession of, those are called zombie houses. And it seems as of late the number is growing. And we want to be very careful because as summer comes and the grass grows in the yards, people notice that people aren't living in those homes now much more. So we want to stress to you that whatever it takes, we've already taken it upon. We've notified banks that we know that the bank has not taken possession of the property, but we had to step in and do something. We wrote letters to the companies. We sent in teams to clean up the yards because the overgrowth was just through the roof. So we don't want that to happen. I know that in my particular neighborhood there's a few. So we want the banks to take responsibility, and please feel free to sell those houses to families that might need them and use them. Don't just hold on to properties that you're not, just for the sake that you're just paying their taxes. So most of them have been winterized. We did have one, and fortunately for us, in our journeys, when we were out looking at the different no parking areas, we came upon one home. And upon looking it up in the assessor's office, we realized that the bank had taken possession of that property and turned out to be very good for us because we could get them to negotiate with a neighbor to buy the property because it was quite dilapidated. He said, "Oh, we winterized it." I went, "What, 10 years ago?" The windows were broken, So we want to make sure that people understand that we're not in favor of these zombie houses at all. It's not fair to the people that don't own homes, and it's certainly not fair to the neighbors. Okay, so with that, if there's no question, we're going to do a special meeting that's going to do two things. It's going to issue the cabaret license for the Briarcliff Manor featuring Antipasta di Napoli Restaurant and Bar. And we're going to accept the payment on the Thornton Hill tax bill for the amount of taxes, penalties, interest, and the carrying charge that is included in it. Does anybody have any issues with that?
Motion to go into special meeting?
Okay. Do I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All right, Madam Clerk.
Councilmember Harder.
Present.
Councilmember Jeffrey.
Present.
Councilmember Blaha.
Present.
Supervisor Donnelly.
Present.
Is there any?
We'll
Okay.
pass the
Okay,
resolutions.
no public comment on agenda items.
Do we have any public comment?
Resolution A, 2015 cabaret license for the Briarcliff Manor featuring Antipasti di Napoli Restaurant and Bar. Whereas the Briarcliff Manor featuring Antipasti di Napoli Restaurant and Bar has filed an application for a cabaret license for the calendar year 2015, and whereas the town board has reviewed the application and attachment thereto, as well as reports from involved departments, including the police department and building department. Now therefore be it resolved that the town board of the town of Ossining hereby approves the application of the Briarcliff Manor featuring Antipasti di Napoli Restaurant and Bar, 25 Studio Hill Road, Briarcliff Manor, in the unincorporated area of the town of Ossining for a cabaret license subject to the following limitations and conditions. Recorded music, live music for private parties shall be allowed on Thursday through Saturday from noon through midnight and Sunday through Wednesday from noon through 11 p.m. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Madam Clerk.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Letter B, tax receiver property redemption Thornton Hill. Whereas properties located at Thornton Hill, Ossining have delinquent taxes resulting in commencement of in rem foreclosure proceedings and a judgment of foreclosure, and whereas Nation Star, the mortgage holders, have requested to redeem the properties and have tendered full payment, and whereas the town board desires to allow the mortgage holders of said property a window of opportunity to redeem the property prior to auction. Now therefore be it resolved that the Town Board of the Town of Ossining hereby allows Nation Star, the mortgage holders of properties of Thornton Hill, Ossining, to redeem said properties by paying all outstanding taxes, interest, penalties, and fees, plus an additional 10% penalty on the lien amount, which upon the recommendation of the receiver of taxes, the Town Board finds to be fair and appropriate based on the specific and unique circumstances of this case. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn. Second.
No executive session, right?
No.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
So as we move into Memorial Day weekend, it's hard to believe. It's hard to believe that going into Memorial Day weekend. As we go into Memorial Day weekend, we want to remind everyone that there is a parade on Monday. We start from around Melrose Lumber. It starts at 9:30. All people should be there at 9. Well, that means all elected officials should be there at 9. And then we will move over to the 12 o'clock parade over in Briarcliff Manor. Briarcliff has a parade at 12 o'clock. So there's a beautiful ceremony that's going to be down at Nelson Park, and we hope you all join us so that we can salute our veterans and remember those who have passed in the military. We also want to remind people that since we just gave them their license, that the Briarcliff featuring Antipasta di Napoli is the old Haymont House. So they're open Wednesday through Sunday. They have a brunch on Sunday. Other than that, there's a lot of things happening, a lot of barbecues this weekend. People will be turning on their grills, and they'll be doing a lot of stuff. We have a very special thing, and this is not combining church and state. I just think it's very unique for our community. We have a young man who's becoming a priest this weekend, and he will be serving his first Mass at St. Augustine's at noon on Sunday. His name is Sean Conley, and we're very proud of him. So we would do that for anyone that was doing something, but that is something that will be a first for everyone to be able to experience. So other than that, we want you to enjoy your week. We will be back next Tuesday at the courthouse. And we want to remind everyone that our next work session, which is June 2nd, will be a town hall meeting at the library. And we'll have some nice presentations from our departments to show all of our good things that are going on in the town of Ossining. So have a wonderful week, and we'll see you next week.